It's
What
my
is it's
the
are you
beginning. It's the beginning of the season.
oh for crying out loud. It is not even Thanksgiving yet.
Yeah. Well,
And we're already doing Christmas things.
you should be very happy. I've only got a few things up, just a few things. Now, by next weekend, that could be completely different. But as of right now, there's only a few things up. So good morning, everyone. Hope everybody had a great weekend. We've got some beautiful weather here, looking at like 60s for the next week.
Which is good because it won't be that forever.
No, it is going to change, but we'll take it as long as we can.
Absolutely. So, a lot of really amazing things have gone on over the last week. Would you say, Rebecca?
Yeah, we've had a good week.
Been an amazing week.
Yeah.
It really, really has. A lot of great things happening in every aspect of almost every business we're working with right now. Been a great week.
Yeah.
So we have some things that we would love to share with you guys, but we can't. Just
Well, we could.
just
we
stay.
won't just yet.
Yeah, just stay connected with us. There's some really, really cool stuff coming. So stay connected. Been really an amazing week in that front. So I'm really looking forward to what we're going to share with you guys and what Rebecca's going to be leading up here in the next few weeks. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Well, and talking about that, it has a lot to do with our discussion today.
What is our discussion? What is our topic?
Our topic today is growth doesn't just happen.
Oh, come on. Seriously? What do you mean?
Well, if that was the case, I would just put some audio discs on before I go to bed at night, and then in the morning I would be,
Growth. You're not talking about like kids growing.
No.
What do you
This
mean
would
by
be
growth? Growth does not just happen. I think
internal growth.
when you're a kid, it just happens.
No, because you still have to study,
Yeah,
even from the time you're 3 in preschool.
I'm talking physical growth just happens.
Well, if we want to talk physical growth, yes, I have grown tremendously over this last week. But I don't think we're talking physical growth.
I'm talking about our grandkids growing. Our grandkids are growing, and they don't need any intentionality. Right?
No. They just grow to a certain point and then they stop. But they stop at some point. Except your nose and your ears. Your nose and your ears never quit growing. Did you know that?
What?
Your nose and your ears never quit growing.
Is that how the nose ends up in everybody's business? Huh? Is that how that works?
Ha 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 ha. Where's my
I don't think it works. Yeah,
Did
there
you
you
hear
go.
that?
Yeah, there you go. Okay, now this is fun. Let's think about this. So the growth does not just happen. What do you mean? Tell us what you mean.
So, well, as you were discussing a little bit ago, that we have some things coming up. We've got some things, since we have started this business, we have, I'm not going to say started over, but we have adjusted. We've adjusted different, we're not doing the same things that we did when we started our business. It's still the same concept. It's still the same, we still have the same purpose of adding value, of helping people grow themselves and their businesses and things like that. So we still have the same goal as in our business, but we have made pivotal changes. And I think part of that is because as we have grown as business owners, as people ourselves, we've made changes in our own lives. And it's so yeah, the new things that are coming out, it's it's not really a completely new avenue that we're doing. It's just going to be a little bit of a different route, maybe.
Okay.
But it is because that we've learned things. We've learned people. We've learned new strategies. You know, one of the things that I've learned is it doesn't have to be perfect. And so I think with our topic this morning on growth doesn't just happen. It's taken time. It's taken time. You know, we're looking at almost 4 years of since we started Kylan Hunt and Company, and now it's 3i Life. We're looking at almost 4 years of change and growth. But I think it is going to be a continuous thing, maybe not to the level of what ours has been, but I think eventually we're going to figure out our niche, but we're still going to grow in those.
Well, I think we know what our primary niche is as a company.
Right.
But what we're learning is, you know, there's a concept that we teach called give up to go up, and I've made some really major mistakes. I've had some pretty big failures in the last 4 years, and it's one of the things that I see as part of the growth process. If I didn't have those failures, I would be doing something different
Right.
than what we are right now. And it would be probably something that I wouldn't be as good at and I wouldn't be as excited about. And to be quite honest, it wouldn't be bringing our customers near the value that we're about to be bringing our customers. Right.
Well, and even as you and I grow in different areas, you know, the training that we do, the books that we read, that we pass on to others, our growth, I mean, we'll never stop. We'll never stop growing. Some of us grow at a slower rate than others, but, you know, the topic this morning is growth doesn't just happen. It's something that you have to be intentional about. You can't just go, hey, I want to grow and change, and then poof, you grow and change. It is something that you have to intentionally work on every day.
Well, I think this is where people get things mixed up when they set goals. You know, there's a lot of individuals that I hear all the time. It's like, oh, just don't set a goal. It doesn't matter. You never hit the goal anyway. You know, the thing that I've noticed about goal setting as I work with different people is the lack of intentionality. You know, it seems like a goal is set because it's something that's necessary, it's something that's needed, or it's something that, you know, you want to feel like you're pointing yourself in some kind of a direction, but yet I see such a lack of intentionality when I see people look at, talk about, think about their goals. And it's just this complete disconnect between what we say we want and our actions to pursue what we want. You know what I mean?
Right.
But what are you thinking?
Well, I just feel like you're talking to me.
What? Why do you say that? I'm talking to myself.
I know. You know, it's just it's hard work, and I, you know, I think when you set a goal, I think okay, let's step back a minute. The whole object is to grow.
Mm-hmm.
And when you set a goal, I think it comes off of the focus of growth, and you get focused on that goal, which in all, you know, goals can change. Things happen in everybody's life. It may just take a different direction. Things may change in yourself. And when you start to grow, maybe your goals are going to change. So I think
But the goals should change up.
Right. And I think setting a goal is great because it gives you a visual of something that you're working towards.
Setting a goal is amazing.
But that if you focus just on that and not the growth implement to get there, that's, you know, I don't want to say a detriment, but it takes your eyes off of the growth, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yep. Well, the reason that I brought up the goals are just one part of a lot of different things you can think about as you think about growth. Most people set goals because they have something that they want to achieve, right? They're moving towards something. However, when things get hard, like John Maxwell would say, everything worthwhile is uphill.
Right.
Everything worthwhile is uphill. Well, if that's indeed the case, which it is, we all know that, if it's worthwhile and it's uphill, what are we intentionally focused on? What are we looking at? What are we doing to make sure that we're moving in that direction? And that is where I see so many mistakes made. It's like, that's hard. I'm going to go do this. I'm going to go this way, thinking that we're going to get up the mountain faster or something of that nature. And you do have to make good decisions. You have to pivot in the right ways at the right times, but you also have to be very intentional in why you're making a change, why you're making a shift, and you never lose sight of the goal in front of you. Would you agree?
I would agree. And the other part of that, I think, there is a personal responsibility in that.
Okay.
Growth is a very personal thing. You can want your company to grow, but you can't put that on everybody else to make that company grow. That has to, yes, they're going to be a part of it. They're going to help you get there. But if you are not growing yourself, you're going to have a hard time getting there.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think growth is a very personal, internal thing for everyone. It has to be very personal.
Well, that's why it's personal growth, personal development.
That is why it's personal growth.
Personal growth, personal development. It has to be personal. And yet at the same time, it has to connect with everybody else that you're working with, right? Your growth has to happen in sequence with others in your office setting, in your business setting, in your customer setting, in your supply chain. There's just so many other connections that you have to think about. Doesn't that make it challenging? Doesn't that just add to the conflict?
I think it does. But you just have to keep the ownership in yourself. You have to keep, you can't control what other people do as much as you'd like to. You can't control their thoughts. You can't control their personal growth.
Right.
You can, discuss with them on what's happening, but you can't change somebody else. That has to be you.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah, you can't change anyone in your upline. You can't change any of your superiors. You can't change anybody anywhere. It's one of the things that we talk about. You manage systems and you lead people. You don't manage people. It's a bad psychology to think that you manage people. You manage systems and then you lead people. And when you have that mindset, you're totally different in how you think. You're totally different in how you act. You're totally different when you look at cause-effect equations. But that's a growth process, right? You have to get to the point where you understand that life is more about who you are and who you are becoming versus what you do. What you do should always follow who you are becoming. Both are important. Both are important, but we live in a culture today that focuses just on what you do. This is what you do. This is what you do. This is what you do. And now we end up with a culture who doesn't know who they are, right? We have a culture, a society of people who are just wondering, who am I? Who am I as a business owner? Who am I as a leader? Who am I in my family? Who am I? And we've focused so much on this is what you do, this is what you do, this is what you do, that we've forgotten that part. And the true growth is going to happen in the who you are.
Right.
Right?
And I think one thing that, and I know everybody understands this, but sometimes it's difficult to realize it, I guess. And it's that it's not going to happen overnight. It's not going to, you can make the decision that you're going to grow, but things that you want to grow and change, it takes a little bit. It takes a little bit because, you've got to figure out what exactly that means.
Well, it takes a little bit. It takes a lifetime. It's a
the
commitment,
continuous
right?
growth. But, sometimes there's certain areas that you that you want to change, that you want to grow in. There's certain areas of your life. And yes, I do think personal growth, you know, I think about the woman that you met 30 years ago is not the same woman that's sitting next to you at this table. And it's been a long journey and it's been, you know, probably not as fast as it should have been, but it's taken a long time to make those changes and understand. I guess part of it is understanding what growth means. You know, understanding what it is in your own life, what that means to you.
Mm-hmm. And even though we're married, we are together as a couple. There's an element there where your growth is different than mine, because I mean, think about it. It has to be different than mine. You grew up in a different household. You grew up with a different thinking about work, about psychology, about religion. You grew up in a totally different household than I did.
I know
And
no, just kidding.
well, in a lot of ways it was. I mean, you talk about a
We won't
dysfunctional
open
family.
up that can of worms because that's a whole different podcast.
But at the end of the day, your personal growth and development has to be different than mine because of the environment that we came from.
Right.
You know, where we're moving together, we're moving forward together, and we're moving towards the same common goal and the same common objectives. But your thinking that you're bringing to this journey is different than the thinking that I'm bringing to the journey. And as we move forward in this journey, though, we have to be able to align with that future objective, which means a lot of the thinking that we have to change, a lot of the growth that we have to have is dealing with getting rid of. It's unlearning what we call in the leadership space. You're unlearning what is programmed so you can reprogram what is necessary to move forward in the right direction.
Well, and one of the things learning with that is that I'm not always right. And yes, I said it.
And it's recorded. You guys all heard
that.
this. She said it publicly.
But my thinking is not always right, and your thinking is not always right.
No, and it can't be.
No.
It can't be always right. That's the whole thing. It's if you were always right, well, there wouldn't be a need for growth. There wouldn't be a need for improvement.
Right.
Right? I mean, it just doesn't. I mean, the fact that to always be right is just, I mean, it's ridiculous concepts. It's like pursuing perfection. It's detrimental.
Right.
Right? If you believe that you're always right. And that's definitely a challenge.
And one of the things that they talk about is the things that maybe stop us from growth,
Mm-hmm.
the things that maybe get in our way, because, you know, there are times that we get in our own way. And
What do you mean by that?
well, a big one for me has always been fear.
Mm-hmm.
It's been a fear of the unknown. And I've always looked at it, when I look at it, the possibility of this growth and where it could take you, I've looked at the negative. Instead of looking at the possibilities, I've always looked at well, what if this happens? And so, you know, fear is, I think, a huge factor in people not growing. The fear of failure, the loss of maybe security, being overextended on resources is one of them that they talk about. But, you know, I've gotten to the point, now I'm going to say that fear doesn't pop up every once in a while. Yes, it does. But what I do with that is the game changer now. Because it used to be I would sit and just dwell on the what ifs. And now I look at the what if, but in a positive light, the possibility.
Mm-hmm. And just changing the script.
Yeah.
Right. And that's the whole idea. It's changing the script of how you're seeing things. You know, if you see things, if you come from a negative past, if you come from a past where it was always, you know, the what ifs were always the negative side, that's how you're going to see the future unless you rewrite the script. If you come from a place where, everything was just super, super positive and this and that and the other, sometimes, positivity gets so extreme that you miss reality, right? So there's a balance there that you have to bring to the table, and that's where I think growth happens. Growth happens when you increase your awareness, like we talked about before. You ask yourself, what is it? Is it fear? Is it maybe even the lack of fear sometimes? Because honestly, you have to have a healthy level of fear, or you're going to do things that just don't make any sense at all. I mean, there's a balance that you bring to every aspect, but it all has to be focused on one thing: growth. Is this going to help me grow?
Right.
Is this going to help me grow? Is this going to keep me moving upward and forward? See, the forward thing never stops. Time never stops. It doesn't wait on anyone. The upward element is a choice. The upward element, a lot of people don't realize that winning and moving up is a choice.
Right.
It is an absolute choice. And that's what I think you're getting at here. It's this intentionality. Growth doesn't just happen. Growth is a choice.
Well, when they talk about fear, one of the things it says here is which emotion is stronger, the desire to change and grow or fear? Which emotion is stronger? And you have to, like you said, you have to have a healthy balance of I'm not going to especially walk out and grab a rattlesnake by its any part, I guess. I was going to say its tail or its head. I don't care what it is. But just to go do that or
Well, if you do, I'll stand off in the distance and cheer for you.
I'm not going to drive a car at 120 miles an hour on a black iced road. But you have to decide when those fears come into your head, what are you going to let take over?
Yeah. Well, this has been good. We'll get some people to jump in here. The thing about fear, and we'll have our Zoom audience jump in and chat with us here a little bit. And if you're on any of our social media platforms, leave a chat message. We'd love to hear from you. We'd love to see your comments, your thoughts. So connect with us there. But the one thing that I would love to share with the audience is the concept that I learned just a few weeks ago to really, really ingrain it in my own mind. I've known it, I've heard it, but it was just a few weeks ago that I really embraced it. And that was the concept of fear. Fear, I think, is probably one of the biggest things that keeps people from growing, right? Because we don't know where we're going necessarily. It's the unknown. There's so many different things associated with fear. And I was challenged here a while back by a devotional that I did one morning on what is the opposite of fear. And a lot of people will say it's confidence, or it's, the lack of fear, or being fearless, or something of that nature, which is all true. However, when you go back and you study the greatest leader in the history of the world, the one that, led a small group of 12 people 2,000 years ago, and there's still a followership behind that leader, which was Jesus himself, every single time that he talked about fear, the opposite of that was faith. Everything he talked about when the opposite of fear was faith. And that to me was game changing because, again, you have to go back and say, what is faith, right? What is faith? What are the things that I have faith in? What are the things that I believe in? What are the things that I trust in that are going to move forward? And when I find myself putting more emphasis on faith than I do on fear, the fear starts to subside. It never goes away.
Right.
But it starts to subside. And to me, that is one of the major key elements of growth is learning what is faith, what do I trust in, what am I focused on? And a lot of that is, you're created with this amazing ability in our own skills, gifts, and talents. Do we have faith in that? Do we have faith in our own abilities that we've been given? That's a big part of it.
But I think that's, touching on that, and I'm not going to dive into this too deep. Yes, you have to have faith, but you also have to put in the effort.
Oh, you got to work.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Because you can't just,
Faith without
you
works
can't
is
say,
dead.
hey, I have faith, I'm going to pass this test and never study for it.
Yeah, faith without work is dead.
Yeah.
That makes absolutely no sense. It's the law of attraction. You attract things into your life, but only when you put in intentionality, the law of intentionality, and the law of action
Yeah.
will create the law of attraction.
See,
right?
that's where I used to fall short. That's where I'm getting better at is the action.
All right, what does our audience have to say? Let's hear from you guys. Looking forward to hearing what your thoughts are. Anybody on Zoom, go ahead and come into the conversation. Love to hear from you. Here we go, Randy. Randy, what you got for us, buddy?
Well, thank you. We appreciate that.
Yep, yep. Right. Yep. That's exactly right. Absolutely. And Randy, you've studied leadership quite a bit. You understand that element, but you just mentioned the processes, the systems. The leadership and management go hand in glove, don't they? Absolutely. Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah. Ashley, I just read your message. Thank you. We're going to have to figure that out.
Yes,
One on one.
we do got to figure that out. But I thought we had all that fixed.
Yeah, I did too. Sorry.
So
Thank you, Ashley, for letting us know.
yeah, bummer, bummer, bummer. So we can't hear Randy. Randy,
But
you just
anyway.
did a great job of sharing some great things with us about. I'll recap this a little bit, and it looks like we're still got some problems on the Zoom side, so apologize for that to our live audience. We will do our best to get that fixed. We're going to have to do like a live test
Yeah,
and see
we're
what's
gonna-
up. But anyway, Randy was talking a little bit about the intentionality, finding joy in life. And here's what I've learned about that. We talk a lot about this, the joy
We
in the
do.
journey, right? The joy in the journey. It's one thing to have this destination, that goal, that focus, that thing that's out there in front of you, but there's joy in the journey. You know, in the Facebook group, I mentioned, do you ever feel like other people are luckier than you are? How do they get more opportunities and this and that and the other? You know, the reality is they know where they're going. They're very intentional about where they're going. They know who they want to be. And because they stay focused on that outcome, it's not just being positive, it's being joyful, choosing that joyful intentionality.
Well, and part of that we discussed, when it comes to joy in the journey, that's got to be your joy.
Yeah.
Somebody else can't do that for you.
Yeah.
I mean, how many times have, in the first few years of our marriage, it was my idea that you needed to make me happy, and you didn't, because.
Well, I know.
But it's because
know.
I was not joyful. I was not happy. And so that's got to be, finding your joy in the journey isn't relying on somebody else. They can be there with you and enjoy that journey together, but ultimately your joy has to come from you.
Well, it absolutely does. And at that time of our life and that time of our marriage, I wasn't that happy either. I wasn't the jolly-go-lucky guy to be around because,
like you are today. Yeah.
I'm a real peach some days.
Yes.
But at the end of the day, it's this idea that we choose who we're going to be. We choose that happiness. We choose that joyfulness. We choose these elements as we move forward in life. And the thing that I've found is the more I choose a positive, joyful attitude, gratitude, I choose these things intentionally, life is just so much more fun.
Well, this has been a 52-year journey to get to even this point, and I'm excited about the point that the next 30, 40, 50 years, however long I have here to learn from. But I'm going to tell you, back 30 years ago when we got married, there was so much of this stuff that I didn't know about and understand. I mean, this is not, growth is not something they teach you in a class. And it's not something that my family ever talked about. And so learning through these years what that means has been huge. I mean, It's been huge.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the last thing I would talk about with growth, and then I think we'll start to wrap this up, Rebecca, is there are times that I've seen people not be intentional with their growth and still have great success. Right? It's like it's an accidental type growth. And if they're growing accidentally, if you're going through life and you do get quote unquote lucky, you're going to have times of growth. Problem is, you're not going to handle it very well.
Yeah.
Not going to handle it very well. You're going to make mistakes with it. Your growth is going to happen to you, and you're not ready. One of the things that I read in a book here a while back is you have to be bigger on the inside than you are on the outside. You have to be bigger on the inside than you are on the outside. That is the growth that you have inside. The growth that you have inside of who you are. The growth that you have in your belief, in your faith. The growth element that exists within you has to be bigger than any opportunity, any potential, anything outside of you. You have to be bigger on the inside than anything that is outside. You have to be. Otherwise, it's going to get missed. It's going to get missed. It's going to get wasted. And we've experienced that. I have experienced that. I have totally lost things because I wasn't ready to receive them.
Right.
And that is things that I can tell you by experience. Focus on growing on the inside. Focus on growing who you are inside. And you will be better equipped to manage anything on the outside.
Yep.
So that's all I have. Rebecca, let's wrap this up.
All right. Well, I want to thank you guys for being on here again, and we will be back next week. Next week, we're going to continue on with the growth, but dive deeper a little bit into it personally, because you must know yourself to grow yourself.
You have to know yourself. And that comes back to awareness. We just came off of a 6-step series where we talked about the personal growth process. The first step was awareness.
Well, and knowing yourself, That's hard some days. It's really hard to dig deep in there.
It's
Sometimes when I learn about myself, I don't like myself very well.
it can be hard. It can be very hard.
So,
All right. Yes, my friends. God bless. We will work on this Zoom to live feed. Ashley, thank you so much for letting us know about that again. We will definitely work on that. I know that it's one button that is not set. That's the thing that's so frustrating. It's one single button. And we just got to find that single button.
yeah.
Just got to push that button.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, my friends. God bless. Make it awesome. We'll see you back here next week when we talk about the awareness element of growing.
Have a great week. See you next
See you next time.